Today, we're going to talk about something truly incredible from World War II, a story of pure genius. We're talking about the Unbreakable Code. Guardians of an Unbreakable Code. I mean, that sounds like something out of a movie, right? It really paints a picture of these men who are holding one of the biggest secrets of the entire war. So, who were they? And what was it about their code that made it so special?
So, let's put ourselves in their shoes for a second. In the middle of a battle, how do you create a code that is genuinely, truly unbreakable? This wasn't just a puzzle, it was a life-or-death problem for the US military. Their messages were getting picked off left and right by Japanese codebreakers, and that was costing lives. They needed something completely different, something radical. So, yeah, they were in a desperate spot. Before we get to the amazing solution, you really have to understand just how big the problem was. In the middle of all that chaos, communication was literally everything. And what they had, well, it just wasn't working.
Okay, so here's what the military needed. It sounds simple, right? It had to be fast, unbreakable, and flexible. But here's the thing. That was a nearly impossible checklist to fill. I mean, the encryption machines they had were super clunky and slow. And trying to use some complicated written code while you're literally under fire? Forget it. It just took way too long. They were stuck. They needed a miracle, a total breakthrough. And boy, were they about to get one from a place nobody would have ever guessed.
So, what was this unlikely weapon? It wasn't some newfangled machine. It wasn't a fancy mathematical algorithm, no. It was a language, an ancient living language, spoken right here in North America for hundreds of years.
And this is why the Navajo language, Dine Bazad, was just perfect. Think about it. It was completely unwritten at the time. Its grammar and tones, super complex. And the most important part, almost nobody outside the Navajo Nation had any idea how to speak it. It was basically a naturally encrypted language. Just brilliant.
And this is where the story takes a really ironic, almost unbelievable turn. You have to understand, for decades, the US government had actively tried to erase this language. They forced Navajo kids into boarding schools and punished them, literally punished them for speaking their own native tongue. And now, that very same language was being looked at as a unique, powerful secret weapon, a tool that was absolutely essential to winning the war. It's just, wow.
Okay, so the idea is genius. But how do you actually make it work? How do you forge this language into a weapon? Because, and this is super important, it wasn't as simple as just having guys speak Navajo over the radio.
Well, the whole thing started with one guy, a man named Philip Johnston. He actually grew up on the Navajo Nation, the son of a missionary, which made him one of the very, very few non-Navajo people who could speak the language well. He saw the potential, he knew what this could do, and he walked into the Marine Corps in 1942 and pitched this wild idea to them. And here's the key thing to get. This is so important. The code talkers weren't just translating English words into Navajo. That's not what they were doing. Why? Because even that could eventually be figured out. No, they built a code on top of the language. The Navajo language was the foundation, but there was another layer of secrecy on top.
Let me show you how clever this was. Look at these examples. If you wanted to say battleship, you wouldn't translate battleship. You'd say the Navajo word for whale. A fighter plane? That's a hummingbird. A submarine? That's an ironfish. It's almost like poetry, isn't it? It's creative. And to anyone listening in who didn't know the system, it was complete gibberish.
And get this, the entire code, with hundreds and hundreds of these terms, was completely memorized. Nothing was ever written down, no code books, no manuals. It existed only in their heads. Just think about that for a second. That level of security is incredible. You could capture a code talker and you'd find nothing. The code was untouchable.
So it's a brilliant idea, right? But the real question is, does it work in the heat of battle? Well, the true test was about to come. And it's in the middle of some of the most brutal fighting of the war that these men, these voices of victory, would become legends.
Let's zoom in on one of the most famous battles in Marine Corps history, Iwo Jima. It was an absolute meat grinder. And for the first 2 days of that invasion, pretty much all of the vital frontline communication rested on the shoulders of just six Navajo code talkers.
For 48 straight hours, 2 full days, these guys worked without a break, with bullets and shells flying all around them. They were the lifeline, sending everything, troop movements, where to aim the big guns, all that critical information, flawlessly. And in that time, they transmitted over 800 messages. 800! And here's the kicker. They did it without a single mistake, not one.
The speed, the accuracy, under that kind of pressure, it's just mind-blowing.
And you better believe the guys in charge noticed. Major Howard Connor, who was the signal officer there, put it bluntly. Were it not for the Navajos, the Marines would never have taken Iwo Jima. I mean, you can't get a more powerful statement than that. He's saying they were the difference maker.
And that's the bottom line, isn't it? This is their legacy. Through the entire war, the enemy, with all their best codebreakers, never, ever broke the code. Not a single time. It was perfect. It was unbreakable. But the story doesn't end when the war does. For these men, their greatest challenge, in a way, was just beginning. Because for decades, their incredible story had to be kept a secret.
So the war's over, everyone's celebrating, but the military decides the code is just too valuable an asset to let the secret out. So these men, these heroes, were sent home and sworn to secrecy. Can you imagine that, coming home from the war and you can't tell anyone what you did? Not your family, not your friends. You just have to carry that weight, that heroism, completely in silence.
And look at how long that silence lasted. The war ends in '45. The program isn't declassified until 1968. That's over 20 years later. And real public recognition? That took even longer. The Congressional Gold Medal wasn't awarded to the original 29 until 2001. By then, sadly, so many of them were already gone.
You know, the story of the Navajo Code Talkers is just such a powerful reminder that there are so many hidden figures, so many unsung heroes who shaped our world. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? What other incredible stories are out there just waiting for us to find them?